All right, a new vetting order supposedly coming from President Trump sometime next week. This occurs at a time DHS is reporting that a lot of the radicalists who come here, they don't instantly become radicalized. It's sometimes years after getting here. Who's predisposed to that and when? With Mark Steyn. You know, I was just looking again at how many incredible books this young man has turned out, from America Alone, After America Get Ready, The Undocumented, way ahead of these trends before a lot of folks. So it's very good to have the author and columnist Mark Steyn with us. Mark, good to see you, my friend.
Hey, good to be with you, Neil.
On this effort, it's I guess this is the administration's version of another mulligan of this, but I wonder if he's going to run into the same buzzsaw of opposition, even if he is clarifying, you know, the types who get in here and that it's limited to new visa entrants coming in. You know what I mean? So what do you expect to happen?
Well, I think there's a group of people who basically object to anything he does. I mean, we hear this response that only 50% of American terrorist attacks are perpetrated by people born outside the U.S. So what's the point of banning people who are born outside the U.S.? Well, you know, if 50% of automobile fatalities were caused by Canadians, I think America would have every right to ban people with Canadian driver's licenses from driving around down here. If you can lower the rate by 50%, that's worth doing. That said, the other side are also right that we have problems with long-term radicalization.
Right.
And after their summer of terror in France, a French security official told me a few months ago that they're all obsessed in France with what they call fast-track radicalization. Like the Nice guy, the Nice truck killer, apparently he was perfectly normal, and then boom, he was radicalized in 20 minutes, according to the experts.
Well,
so
by that definition, by that definition, though, Mark, then they don't know how to handle this, because we have the problem right here in our midst, and they're already here. Some of them are fine or seem fine now, but within a matter of months or years, they might not be so fine. And none of this would be presumably addressed in any approach that the president takes or others try to take, right?
No, we're in basically Broadway. As they say on Broadway, nobody knows nothing. All we can say, which is a very crude correlation, but which is correct, that the less Islam you have, then the less terrorism. You don't hear about Muslim terrorist attacks in Japan or in Poland because they have very few Muslim immigrants to those countries. But we do have a problem with second and third generation radicalization. I mean, I don't even like this term radicalization. They make it sound like it's the sort of West Nile mosquito, that you're just perfectly normal and then suddenly you're bitten by the radicalization bug. But the guy, for example, the Orlando nightclub killer who slaughtered all those people in that gay nightclub, he was raised by somebody who himself shouldn't have been let into the country. So I think it's actually what the president says is simple prudence, that even if it's only 50% or 35%, if you can reduce domestic terror attacks by 35%, why not go for it?
You know, the whole source of this, I know when you and Nigel Farage did the global refugee crisis, the key issue was that is a worldwide phenomenon right now, and even though the overwhelming number of these folks might be just fine, there's not a lot of room for error here. This is Europe's problem. This is, you know, our problem. This is a lot of people's problem. So I guess it goes back to something you guys were talking about last year and years prior in your case. So the question is, how can anything the president does now, how can it change the equation here?
Well, I think what he said the other night, actually, in the congressional address, that he as president owes a duty not to the world, but to the citizens of the United States, the existing citizens of the United States, who have the right to choose who crosses their borders. Just as up north in Canada, Canadians have the right, or Norwegians have the right, or New Zealanders have the right. And this idea that somehow it is immoral, basically the premise of the Ninth Circuit decision that all 6 2/3 billion people on the planet who aren't American citizens have some kind of inherent right, at least potentially, to immigrate here, is nuts. And the people are on the side of the president on this issue, and he should stick to his guns on it.
You know what typically comes comes up, though, and you've written and gotten into this fast, is no one ever wants to look like they're racist or looks like they're insensitive or callous or mean to the plight of refugees. But they're more concerned with how they'll look than safety. And that's when I think you cross a dangerous, even idiotic line.
No, immigration is basically treated as a sort of area of moral exhibitionism. And most of the people who advocate for open borders don't actually have to live on the front line of it, like the women I saw in formerly peaceful Swedish towns who are now being advised by their mayors and police chiefs not to go out unaccompanied at night. The police chief of Vienna said that women can't go out unaccompanied. The capital city of Austria in the year 2017, and it's fine if you're living in one of these big swanky mansions like the Silicon Valley types do, and you've got your border wall around your garden. That's fine, but the country should have a border wall too. It's entitled to the same security as those guys.
Mark Steyn, always great catching up, my friend. Quit writing so many books, by the way. Always good seeing you, all right?
Thanks, Neil. You can't keep up with them.
And that is a compliment, my friend. That is a compliment. Mark Steyn.
Thanks a lot.